they have for Penn State media. Coach K, one of the best things I think we've done as an offense this year is Coach K, it was about developing leadership in the spring when he first got here, and then now we're enabling leaders. Like we're having guys present different things, like different cut-ups to the whole offensive unit. And I think, not only for me, a bunch of other guys that, just aren't comfortable with public speaking, because it's definitely a skill you have to practice and work on, of being comfortable of just being vulnerable and open discussions and talking more in front of a bigger crowd of your peers and teammates, and just telling them what needs to be said, even if it's something that you don't want to say. You got to get on a guy. So I think that's been the best thing that we've done as an offense. I can definitely feel there's just more presence of leadership and vocal leadership throughout the summer.
So that's the we are not team.
Yes, sir.
About.
Yes, sir.
What was that?
How did he introduce that to the team?
I think he did something similar at Kansas, and then obviously we have the "We Are" mantra. So it's more of like our standard as an offense and upholding that standard, because one of the different things that we're doing as an offense as ball carriers throughout practice is sprinting through the last guy on the whistle, even if you get tagged off or thudded, whatever the tempo is in that practice period. Just training ourselves to fight through contact and not just give up when you're tagged off, finishing and sprinting through the last defender, because there's been countless plays across college football and really the NFL of, if you make one guy miss and you're off in space, so you got to train that. And then obviously like backside receivers or receivers, continuing to block downfield, linemen tracing the ball, and then for quarterbacks, us carrying our boots out hard and just helping, hopefully freeze the defender's feet and allow, what could have been a tackle for gain of 4, now it's an arm tackle and nick and fat in the hole, and they're one-on-one with the safety, and obviously they'll win that matchup more times than not. So it's all those little things. I think that's been a real help to bring in more explosive plays to the offense, because it's something that we didn't really train in the past.
What's it been like working with Nick Dawkins? Nick Dawkins, at center. Coach Kotelnicki said he's a one-of-a-kind guy. He's really authentic. What makes him one-of-a-kind and authentic?
I don't know what makes him one-of-a-kind and authentic. It's just him. Doc, whatever, after he's done playing football, he's going to be super successful in whatever he chooses in life. He's one of those guys that can relate to literally anybody with any type of background, any type of, personal experiences. And it's really cool to be a part of that. I met Doc when I was on my OV here, and it's cool to be in year 3 with him. He's done a great job of, just being that leader up front, O-line, and being vocal, and it's been cool to see. And he's a tremendous player and a great person, and it's fun to be around him every day.
You mentioned being vocal, and I know that's what Neil was referencing. Is that unnatural for you a little bit? I mean, it's, you're 6'5", and you can throw and you can run, but speaking up and being a barker sometimes and being a leader, is that something that's been coming around the table for you a little bit? Do you feel more natural in that role?
Yeah, I definitely feel more natural in that role, and I think between me, Danny, Coach K, and Coach Franklin was something that I wanted to be very intentional in taking, my next steps in my progression of, being more of a vocal leader, because I'm always going to be a lead by example guy first. That's just kind of how I'm wired, put the work in and less talking and do the work and go out and perform. But, I want to be that vocal leader for the team. I want to, be on the same page as all the players, and then be that, communicator between the players and coaching staff to players, relaying whatever message I need to do, and just being open and honest with my thoughts of, philosophy, offense, my likes and dislikes on plays, because that's important. One of the things that I've talked to Danny a lot about is there's probably over a million plays that you can run in football, but the average plays called in the game now is going to be 67 plays, and whatever the drop back number or pass number is, I have to love every single play. That's one of the big things I'm really taking to heart right now, of experimenting in practice, and if I don't feel right with either the footwork, the timing of the route, the depth of the route, or just the protection in general, being open and honest, and that's allowing me to be just learn more about football and having really good conversations in our quarterback room, and just allowing anybody to step up and ask questions. So I think I just feel a lot more comfortable overall.
Drew, going into
Thank you.
do you feel better equipped to handle or take on the responsibilities that come with being QB on a program like this, with the expectations and everything that surrounds it?
Yeah, I definitely feel more comfortable with everything that comes with being the starting quarterback at Penn State. Obviously, I was able to learn behind Sean my first year, but I didn't really know what he was going through per se. I could have plenty of conversations with him, and I did. But it's like it's different when you go through it. I've learned a lot of things over the past year about just in general football life, and I think I've been able to really apply that, and I just feel a lot more comfortable being me. And I'm just going to be myself at the end of the day and go out and play.
How much of that comfort comes from maybe the culture that Andy has kind of developed in his already short time?
I think it's probably a big part of it, and honestly, like experience, like going year to year. Obviously, I learned a lot from my freshman year going into sophomore year, but I feel like I've learned a lot more things going from sophomore to junior year. Like I just feel like I'm at that point where like I'm trying, like we call it in the quarterback room, like level 401, 301, just like different masteries of the offense. Obviously, I'm at a different state. Me and Bo are at a different stage than the rest of the room, just based off experience alone and how long we've been in the program. So it's been cool to just kind of develop that, and I think that's where I'm really just feeling the most comfort at, and then just applying it out on the field, like just being intentional with all the reps that I get in any periods, carrying that over to Skelly, then team, whatever the practice calls for that day.
I know you guys have the practice game by game mentality, but does a 12-team playoff this year, does that add any kind of level of excitement to you guys? Just as a mind.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely just say it's different because it's a different thing that we're going to experience this year. But like we always preach, like you can't get to that point if you're focusing on that point right now. Like we have a lot of things that we got to get done as an offense that we got to hammer out now through fall camp, and then when we get into the season, like we got to worry about whoever that opponent is that week. We can't be overlooking anybody because every team we have on our schedule is a legit team. Like it doesn't matter the level they're at, the conference they're in. Like we're playing a lot of talented teams this year, so we just got to take that business approach, and if we do that, I think it will help our process as an offense going into each game, like just getting better and better and building off that. And I think Coach K's philosophy has really helped us as offense, like just complementing everything. So I think it's going to, make our jobs easier at the end of the day. So we just got to worry about our installs right now, our install day 3 for tonight's practice, and then just keep building off that from there.
Hey, Drew, there have been we noticed on Wednesday there were a number of new coaches out there with the analysts being able to be on the field. Has that affected your position at all, or what have you noticed about the additional voices out on the field?
Yeah, it hasn't really affected quarterbacks per se because we're such a small group in general. Like we're able to always be together, and obviously Danny's in our meeting, running that meeting every day, and then with Coach K not necessarily having a specific position he's assigned to, like he'll float between rooms, which I think is very positive because that's kind of how it is at the next level with coordinators. And I think it's just good for Coach K to bounce around to each room and have relationships with everybody, and then being able to connect it. And then if something, let's say, pops up in the O-line room about protections, he's able to just bolt over to our room right down the hall, talk to us about it, and then he's able to go down to the running backs and communicate about it. So I think that from that standpoint, it's really good to have more coaches because there's just a lot more learning that goes on, and you're kind of allowed to like individualized learning. Like I said earlier, like me and Bo are at a different pace than Grunk, just because Grunk's short time has been short here. You can say that for the more dramatic positions such as the receivers. Like you got the older guys that really don't need to be learning the basics anymore just because they've mastered that. So you're able to split that room up a little bit and really develop the guys at a faster rate just because learning is more individualized at that rate.
You're a student of the game. You've talked in the offseason before about watching NFL teams and different concepts you like. So how excited are you for this offense now that you're in it and you're in the first couple days of installing stuff in camp? How excited are you to run this offense?
I'm really excited. Like there's a lot of things that we can do in this offense that I think is going to be cool to put on tape, and it's just going to cause stress for defenses. Like there's a lot of pre-snap stuff you can do, but there's also a lot of post-snap stuff you can do that's going to just cause stress on defenses, challenge their rules and coverages, certain coverages, and I think the biggest thing is just how complementary we're going to be. Like everything's going to marry together, everything's going to look the same. Like that's one of the big intentional points that we made this offseason of making everything look the same. Like a go route or a dig route has to look like a go route, has to look like everything else. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen the receivers they're running everything like it's a go. And I think it's just creating a lot more separation for them, and just refining their techniques right now with Coach Hagan's obviously. But it's been really cool to see just how really creative you can get on the offense and how simple it is for us, but how much stress it can cause for the defense.
You mentioned there how everything looks the same, run, pass, all those things. How much, James Franklin talked about earlier today how offense needs to make things as simple as possible for the quarterback and the offensive line. So making everything look the same, how much does that help the offensive line and how?
It definitely helps the offensive line, just specifically in the run game, because that's where the looks can get challenging, just with different fronts, different boxes that you can get. And I think the more you're able to rep that, like we had a really good walkthrough this morning, and just so many good reps of learning and just talking through that. But I think the more you're able to make everything the same for the offense, just the learning so much quicker, and then you're able to talk about it with the iPads on the sideline this year and the headset communication. You're just able to have a lot more clean communication, and I think just the more reps you can bank at like certain looks and certain like run plays is the better. Like honestly, we have new installs every day, but I don't think there's really been a new play that we've put in since the spring. I'm sure there will be like next week, just because we'll get into more of the meat of fall camp, but everything's been the same for us. It's just how do we get to this play a different way, out of different formations, shifts, motion, and things like that. That makes it easier for really the whole offense to learn.
Can you?
A couple minutes ago, you said, "I just feel a lot more comfortable being me." How did that happen, and why did that happen?
I mean, I think naturally I'm more of a introverted person, but like, I'm just more open, I guess. Like I just feel more comfortable in being myself as a leader, as a person, and not trying to be something I'm not. Not that I've tried in the past, but I think I'm just at that point where it's like, okay, I am who I am, and this is how I'm gonna play. This is how I'm gonna, talk and learn and lead and all those things like that. So I think it's just from that standpoint, I just feel super comfortable in my own skin.
How has your relationship with both Danny O'Brien and Brad Maendler evolved since you've been playing at Penn State?
I mean, Brad might as well be like a recruiter for us with me and Grunk here. Yeah, I mean, just to start with Brad, like we're really tight. Like I'm sure he'll be up here at some point throughout fall camp. But I think just our relationship, really since COVID, since that's when I first started training with him, has been nothing but great. There's still things that we get on for me, like mechanically, and I think that's the thing I love about just playing quarterback, playing quarterback.
Yes, sir.
We both have that OCD personality where like when one thing's like not right, like we obsess over fixing it. And then honestly, like Danny's just able to relate to anybody in the quarterback room, really the whole team. He's been nothing but great for our room and just the whole offense in general.
You've talked a lot about mentality and kind of like those processes of kind of the mental side of your position. Have you ever talked to like a sports psychologist or ever like gone into some of those things about how to manage what is a highly stressful position that you play?
No, I've never really done that before. It's more of like talking to, I guess, like this guy who's been here for, 10 years now? Like he's been through everything. He's seen everything here. So just really talking to other guys that have the same shared experiences as me. And that's something that I've seen a lot of people do. Like I love watching golf, and I watched the full swing. And who is it? Is it Wyndham Clark that sees a sports psychologist? Like seeing how that really, positively impacted his game is really cool to see. So maybe it's something I do in the future. I'm definitely not closed off to that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.